Well, you call it business tourism, which is interesting because many other people simply talk about business events or conferencing or something of that nature, or incentive trips. But you're right, it is actually business tourism, as you may have festival tourism and sports tourism and also cultural tourism, but also other kinds of tourism. But it has its own distinguishing features. And yes, it is very important to us in South Africa, and it's of growing importance because it has features that are unlike what would be in the normal leisure tourism. Leisure tourism is often the byproduct of business tourism, and business tourism or business events often bring people to your country who would otherwise not come to the country. So you can do everything that you might wish to do to make South Africa an attractive holiday destination, and you will win some people over and you'll persuade some people to come, bearing in mind that, like New Zealand, Australia, for many countries, long haul trip, long haul destination. But once there's an international congress or conference, people come who may otherwise not even have dreamt of coming to South Africa one day. We're having a lot of that in South Africa, and the research shows us that there's a very high visitor return rate for leisure tourism. Research also shows that extra days are invariably spent in our country, so it's pre-conference, post-conference, so it is invariably accompanied by some degree of leisure tourism anyway. In any event, while the conference is happening, people do go to restaurants and they do all sorts of things that might be described as normal touristic activities. What we need to do in South Africa, and we've risen to that largely, is to recognize that it's not a cheap thing to come to South Africa. It's a long flight and an expensive flight, which means we have to offer something that is sufficiently attractive to entice people to have their events in South Africa. And I think that's what we've succeeded in doing. What do people want? Well, first and foremost, they want a good venue. And the venue has to be a conference facility itself, and then surroundings around the conference facility. And there I believe that we've got some of the best to offer. Because you have to be able to go to places, do your shopping outside of the conference. You want to be able to go up the mountain to the beach or on a wine route, and so we've got that combination. Firstly, of really excellent facilities, and of a range of sizes, depending on the scale of the conference, and suiting a range of pockets, a range of budgets. So I think the offer is a diverse one and an attractive one, but importantly there's a confidence factor, and which feeds on itself. Once you've hosted very large conferences, for example the World AIDS Conference, which is scheduled to happen in Durban next year, which happened a few years ago, which involves about 20,000 people. The World Summit on Sustainable Development was a very large gathering of people in Johannesburg, and of course the mega event was the FIFA World Cup. And that establishes a reputation that South Africa, despite the challenges that we have in our country, which are well known, that we are very, very capable of hosting successful conferences, and the experience is an enjoyable one. By the way, obviously any Minister of Tourism would say what a great experience you're going to have in South Africa. The stats tell the story. The very high visitor return rate tells you that in fact conference delegates do have a great time in South Africa, and they choose, while they are in South Africa, they choose to come back with their families in later years.
Minister, if I could ask one question, from your portfolio point of view, what would you like to achieve as Minister of Tourism to develop the industry on a broad basis, if not for business or meetings and incentives, but what do you hope to develop while you have the opportunity to work on this?
Yeah, a very good question. The entry point is recognizing that we have enormous socio-economic challenges in our country. At the moment, our growth rate is sluggish, to say the least. So it's recognition that the tourism sector is resilient, and it's offering us growth at the moment, growth opportunities that the mining sector is not, because of the depressed commodity prices. So it's capturing the growth potential of tourism, but ensuring that the growth in tourism is inclusive growth, so that more opportunities are provided to people who have historically not had such opportunities, and that it translates into jobs. Well, the good news there, of course, is that by its very character and its very the nature of tourism, it is employment intensive, and it does translate into a number of jobs. It's estimated that for every 12 tourists that come to South Africa, a permanent job is created. So in growing our tourism numbers and our visitor numbers, we are creating much needed jobs and livelihoods for families. And then in addition, the vision in the longer term would not only be that tourism grows and that it's inclusive growth and that it creates jobs, but that it's ethical tourism and responsible tourism. And I must say, in this regard, we have a lot to showcase, and many of our lodges and products have won numerous international awards for reaching out to communities, for community-based projects, and for socially and environmentally responsible tourism.
I guess one last question. What would you see would represent the success of your portfolio? And at some point you finished, you've done a job well done. What would you see as that high point?
Job well done could partly be measured in numbers. But the numbers would be inadequate because there are sometimes factors beyond one's control that would influence numbers. Job well done is if it not only perceived to be, but in reality, we are doing the necessary things to promote tourism in our country. And what is it? On the one hand, marketing our country well. We can learn good lessons, by the way, from Australia and New Zealand, who are doing outstanding marketing work, marketing Destination Australia, Destination New Zealand. So if we do a better job at marketing South Africa, we're doing a great job at marketing business events, but we want to market South Africa more successfully and more creatively as a leisure tourism destination of choice. So if I can say, well, actually, we're doing as much as we can to creatively and successfully market South Africa, and secondly, significant and visible destination improvement. So your product has to improve all the time. It can't just be improved marketing. So the experience, for example, at our World Heritage sites have to become more meaningful experiences, more profound experiences, and a whole range of things that make the experience from moment of arrival to the moment of departure a more memorable kind of experience. And there are a number of things that we have in mind, but that will satisfy me if I've seen by the end of this term of office significant improvement in some of our major tourism magnets, if you like. And finally, although let me add two more, because a critical feature in improving the destination and the experience is the human component. That if we can significantly step up our skills development and training programs to build a new layer of young people who are going to be the managers of the future and the owners of the future, especially black people in South Africa. And we have a range of ideas in order to do that successfully. And then finally, we have a new program in mind that we've started to do, and that is to employ large numbers of people on a public works basis to keep some of our destinations clean and safe. So it's public employment, if you like, but public employment which will contribute towards growing tourism numbers. And that could include wall art, it can include just simply keeping hiking trails safe and clean, beaches. We have a number of blue flag beaches, if you're familiar with that concept. Retaining the blue flag status, getting more of our beaches to get the blue flag status by having people out there, people who are tourism friendly, keep the place safe, keep the place clean, and offer a friendly and welcoming face. So, it's a package of goods that I would like to see properly running before I hand over to somebody younger than myself in 5 years' time, or 3 years' time, I should say.
Last thing actually just occurred to me, how important has it been to come along to IBTM to gauge what's happening across the globe and for the sector? Has this been useful to come to the event?
I mean, amazingly, having been here for just a few hours, I can say already incredibly useful. in fact, the very questions that I'm asked by interviewers like yourself, and the engagement that I've had with the people over the last few hours, have already certainly reinforced some of the beliefs that I already had, but given me new perspectives as well. It's the first time I've come to I've been to the WTM in London and the ITB. First time I've come to a large business events and conferencing type of event that this is, and it certainly tells me that this industry is extraordinarily important, and the gains are quite as long as you're able to back up with a product, the gains are quite quick. One deal struck can be a deal involving thousands of people, while it's a much more painstaking effort in leisure tourism.
Minister, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. I know it's been busy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great.